Hello, and welcome to my podcast, Good Grief. My name is Dr. Christine Malone, and in this podcast, we talk about trauma, tragedy, and survival. In each episode, I will interview someone that has gone through grief in some way, and we will discuss the impact it has had on their life. By sharing these stories, we hope that others won't feel alone should they be going through similar situations. Enjoy. Okay, listeners, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. My guest today is Nichole, and she is going to tell us some stories about traumas she's been through, and addiction, so on and so forth, and where she is today. So, Nichole, if you would like to introduce yourself or tell us anything else about you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christine, for having me. I'm Nichole Hamilton. I love to just be called Nick, nice and simple, and I'm here from Adelaide, South Australia. Wow, I guess the best place to start is for me in my 20s. I got really, really lost, and had done the motherhood thing, had two kids, the big house, the husband, traveled, and was deeply unhappy and behind closed doors. My ex-husband and I, it's ex now, so I can talk about divorce as well, but we were drug addicts. We were taking a lot of drugs, and it got to a point from being quite, partying and controlled. The kids never saw it, but we were deeply in addiction. And it was an everyday use. I guess in America it's amphetamines. I don't know what you really call it, but we use it was like crystal meth, I think that you guys might call it.
Popular here as well as opioids. Opioids are the biggest problem here in the US.
And I was deeply unhappy, and it was a numbing mechanism. I can look back now and see why I was doing it, but I was so depressed and I didn't realize. And I was using it to numb out. I was using it as a coping mechanism. I'd wake up, I would do it all day, hide it very well. My mother thought I was bipolar because I would be up and down with my emotions. And I was asking for help in closed doors. Like, I wasn't really being honest to everybody. I had asked my doctor, I'd asked the drug and alcohol counseling services we had here in Australia. I'd done psychology, and nothing worked. And I was, I remember wrapping my Christmas presents one year, taking drugs, doing drugs, smoking them. And I just thought, I don't want to be doing this. And I remember just like fast forward a year, and I was in the exact same spot. And I was like, what the F am I really doing with my life? And, as the universal, God always has a plan. I met this person through a community of dancers, and it was a hypnotherapist. And I had no idea about holistic healing at all back then, not at all. But internally, something knew that I wanted this person. And this person I met at a group event, and he looked at me. And he was an energetic healer, you could say as well. I didn't know about any of that either, but he looked at me, and my whole body tingled. I didn't know what hypnotherapy was. I thought he was doing it with his eyes. I couldn't look at him. I was like, is he doing it now? And I wrote him an email to book my consult. And I told him that I wanted to quit smoking, but I didn't tell him it was about amphetamines. I didn't tell him it was that. In that one session, I got so much clarity and such a breakthrough that I was able to quit the amphetamines and get sober, like from that session. Yes, I've had relapses. Yes, I've continued, but I never went backwards to smoking it every day. Like, I might have had one like little relapse when I got divorced or whatever else, but that internal click, that powerful unconscious healing. And, bear in mind, I'd had drugs in my system 2 days before. To go into that unconscious part of me, to really visualize and see what I needed in my life, led me on the path that I am today. And I haven't stopped studying since. I'm a hypnotherapist now myself. I've got my, clinical hypnotherapy, but that profound being held and seen and helped, it's a guide. Like, you're guided through that in hypnosis. You have all the wisdom you need. Doesn't matter what you're going through, whether it's addiction or DV or trauma or divorce. Everybody has the wisdom, but when we're stuck, we don't know where it is. And so that's the power of that hypnosis. And it was just the most profound healing that when I, maybe a year later, went into a one-day workshop, I realized that, looking back, the reason that I became a drug addict was because I was unhappy. The reason that I'd sought out hypnotherapy was because I was meant to be a hypnotherapist, and I was meant to share this story. And, this is going back, 14 years now. And so when I started sharing my story of drug addiction online, my family, my mom were like, you can't do that. Like, it's not what you do. But I realized that this was my power, my confidence, my strength, my mission
Yep.
was to share this deep part of me so nobody else feels like I did, trapped in their four walls with no answers or seeking help and not getting the result they wanted.
Right.
So it's
Well,
led me to where I am, but it was the most powerful part of the journey.
yeah, there's a popular thought out there that the root of all addiction is pain, and certainly what you were describing with the unhappiness and so on, pain in your life, and so on. And I've talked to a lot of people with addiction issues, and a lot of them had the same issue where they just couldn't get to the point of stopping, right? I just couldn't get there. And even though it was ruining my family, my life, my work, whatever, I just couldn't get there. So it's always exciting to me to hear from someone who's managed to come through that. But it almost sounds like the hypnosis kind of reaches in and not necessarily, I want to use the word alleviate that pain, override it, but you're making it sound like you sort of, it's revealed to you. And because it's revealed to you, you can work your way through it. Would you say that's kind of how it works?
I guess as I said, like for me, I was kind of like trying to numb out that pain. Taking those amphetamines was giving me this way of coping. It was a coping mechanism. But when the hypnotherapy, like you said, kind of reached in, I could feel what my body really needed. And it wasn't drugs. What my heart really needed, what my body, what my soul really needed.
Yeah.
And I could see that with clarity.
Yeah.
Whereas when I had talked consciously with counselors and doctors who knew all the amazing things and the analytics and the science behind addiction, what I needed was the deep emotional connection to my pain to work out what I needed to do. And part of it was I saw my life really with my children and light and sobriety. And I saw the other path of addiction and my ex-husband and darkness and death. And in that moment, I knew that I was going to leave my ex-husband. And I was like so shocked. I was like, I came out of it. It did take me a while, but in that moment, my soul knew what my path was going to be.
Hmm.
And so through those guidance, it's really helped me. And I've done, thousands and thousands of hours of healing now in different modalities of unconscious, a lot of hypnotherapy as well. But very, very powerful. And I don't know if everybody knows that you can find those types of coaches and healers out there, because the norm is medical system, get some different medication, go to a counselor, go do your 5 steps, your AA, your NA. And I'm not and some of that does work. Like I'm grateful for those that it does work for, but for me, it didn't.
Right.
And so the message for me is like, keep asking until you find it, because there are other ways to find what you deeply need to get to the path that you want, regardless if it's addiction or depression or whatever else.
So what made you, I mean, I'm guessing I know the answer, but what made you want to become a hypnotherapist and offer hypnotherapy to other people? What was the driving force behind that?
Well, again, yeah, I didn't know at that moment, but when I went, it was really funny. Again, I believe that the universe and God like leaves these little crumbs for us. A client, I was in beauty, I was a beautician, and she's like, "Oh, you should go to this." And I went to a 2-day workshop, and it was all around a bit like Tony Robbins, like NLP and
Oh,
understanding your mindset and your belief, and a little bit of hypnosis. And it all made sense. Like it clicked in. It's like, I know why my brain did this. I know why I was searching. Like, I can go back and see that I was unhappy and finding those little pain trails and why I behaved and did the things that I did. And I was like, wow, this makes so much sense. I need to learn this. When I decided that, I went back to the hypnotherapist that was so profound for me, and I found his teacher, because all hypnotherapists do it differently. There's, and I've been to many, there's clinical and there's, holistic, and there's, all different types. There's scripted. I don't like scripted. I'm intuitive. So I went back and learned, and I've studied it, about 7 times with different teachers and different modalities. And words and language have become my thing. If we can play with our words, we can anchor in. And when I started learning it, it was more for myself, but I would come home and do it on my kids. Like, isn't that amazing? Where do you feel safe? And I would use this hypnotic language and rant in these little, nuggets of gold, like, you're so safe, you're so beautiful, or whatever it is, or where is that anger? And I would start using this conscious way and unconscious way of tapping in through communication. So I honestly thought that, and I've also had, thousands of hours of clients. I would work with drug addicts, and I did. I worked with a lot of people who had sobriety issues and people that were going through relationship issues. But it was, again, another breadcrumb, another sign. Here in Adelaide, my teacher started referring me out to kids because I was taking it home to my kids. My kids were 7 and 3, and every time I learned this hypnosis or NLP or something, I could make it a game for kids. I was like, well, if I was deeply unhappy in my 20s and 30s, but I was very lonely at 7 and learned my strategies back then,
Right.
why am I not helping my 7-year-old now
Yeah.
express his anger or talk about it? So give me some chalk, give me some glitter, give me a paint, and I can make personal development a game for kids, and that's how I kind of got this name and, developed what I now do is kids coaching, which
Right.
is works into family coaching as well. I teach parents how to use their words properly and co-regulate and all of those things. But it just was a progression. If I hadn't been a drug addict, I wouldn't have, learned what a hypnotherapist was. I
Right.
wouldn't have gone and studied.
Oh, yeah.
And then now, here I am bringing all of this stuff. And I'm at now, I actually teach others how to hold space for children
Yeah.
because it's so important. It's such a needed
Yeah.
part of
No,
society.
I love that. Absolutely. I love that. So I come from a rather abusive childhood myself, and I know that those experiences definitely formed me and many of the things that I've done in my life, no doubt in my mind. I mean, there's no like, oh, I don't think that harmed me. No, that harmed me.
Of
And
course.
I love the idea of working with kids. So how do you get, I mean, how are the kids referred to you or the families referred to you? Are they like as by their doctors or schools or how does that go?
Yeah. So here in Australia, like we have a um, scheme. So I work with a lot of autistic children, children with disabilities. So we've got a national disability insurance scheme. So my son's autistic as well. So I've kind of worked with a lot of neurodiverse. So there's a lot of referrals that way for me. But also obviously socials. I've been on socials for 10 years plus. People kind of find me. And I have worked in the school system myself. So a lot of referrals, a lot of networking, ads, that kind of way. But yeah, a lot through the disability insurance scheme as well, working with me.
Okay, great. Yeah, our health insurance here in the United States is very different from yours.
Correct. It
Yeah,
is. It is.
very, very different.
But I
But I
do
guess,
work on Zooms. Like I've worked with people like right across the world. It doesn't
yeah,
it doesn't
well,
matter.
yeah,
The,
that's a good point. So you
the
you
one the
might have a client who's like not even in Australia that might
correct.
yes, okay.
Correct. And the one thing that I do that is very different than a lot of other coaches and therapists, and I teach I've got 120 kids coaches across Australia doing their own little version of kids coaching. We never work with a child unless they pick us. So I get a referral, like a mum rings me up or dad or whatever, and I'm like, well, your child needs to meet me. And that can be done via Zoom or in person,
Yeah.
and we connect, empower, then play and grow with them. And the empowerment piece, the connection and empowerment is so important because, when a child is dysregulated or going through a struggle or whatever else, the last thing they want to do is talk about their stuff. So we have to build that yes, like mum and dad are paying or the insurance scheme is paying or whoever, but we need to get their yes. And so I've done this from day dot. I say to them, if you don't want to work with this, and I know people can't see me, but I've got crazy pink hair. If you don't want to work with this crazy pink haired lady, I will find you someone better.
Right.
And I say to them, did you get to pick your doctor? And they're like, no. Did you get to pick your school teacher? No. Well, you pick me, you interview me, you ask me anything. And obviously, at their different levels, if I'm talking to teenagers, I can go into depression and addiction or whatever else, or the little ones, I just play with them and talk to them about what I've worked with other kids about. And they always pick me. They always do because they're so taken aback that somebody's asking them what they need and what they want, that
Right.
they always do. And that is the yes. And then in those sessions, we can play, we can paint, we can climb, we can run. But in those sessions become the most growing and beautiful connections because they've built that trust. They want to come back and see us because we've asked. And a lot of therapists don't do that. So that's a really important part of a kids coach is, building that bond, that
Yeah.
connection piece, that safety, that safe space. Mm.
Absolutely. I would say just, I know my listeners can't see you, but yes, the pink hair, it just sort of kind of makes you go, oh, well, she's not like every other adult I know, right? So that already would put somebody like, not pigeonholing you into something else. and you're very genuine, and your energy is incredibly positive. So I can see why kids, not only kids would pick you, but adults would also say, I want whatever she's got, I'll take that. So it's kind of that sort of a sense to very genuine kind of a thing. So I absolutely love that too. So
Thank you.
uh, do you now, I know you have some in social media websites and stuff. So do you advertise any of this on your
Of course. Yeah, of course. So I'm the Kidz Coach, and the kids is with a Z, but we'll have obviously all the links in the show notes. But I have a little free program. I'm on TikTok, Insta, Facebook. I try and put a lot of free content out there. It's not just I'm doing these podcasts. I don't, necessarily think that it all should be paid work. I train others to be kids coaches across the world as well. So using their skill set. So I've got nannies and childcare workers and nurses and educators that have all left and now doing their own portion of kids coaching with different variants and skill sets. So I train others to bring this, because the mission is bigger than me, to help these children go when they need it most, in those most vulnerable moments at those different ages. And I still do work with families and children myself. This year I'm really focused on running in-person events and retreats across the families and children together to have some harmony and learn some of these personal development philosophies and techniques so they can bring harmony to their homes. But yeah, there's multiple ways to find your listen to me. I've got many podcasts for my own very soon. But yeah, I really believe the mission is to create a world full of children coaches and mentors that can fill in the gaps that are so needed.
Right. Yeah. Actually, as you're talking, and I'm thinking about kids and my own childhood and so on, I'm thinking what a different world this would be if we had, healthy, safe children, more healthy, safe children. How amazing that would be, just for the world in general, not just for those kids, but
100%.
to have them what they
100%.
grow up to be and what they grow up to contribute. Like you, I also believe that things line up and happen for a reason. I think that the experiences that I've had in my life have definitely led me to where I am today. I'm happy with who I am today, so I'm going to say I'm thankful for most of those things. However, I do, I know, like I said, I would be a very different person if it wasn't for the stuff that I've been through. I shared with you before we started recording that I was working in healthcare leadership for most of my professional career. But then my middle son was injured at birth, and he was severely disabled. He only lived to be about 4.5. And that experience changed my outlook on just about everything in life in general, including what I did for a living and what my contribution was to the world, what my legacy would be. And I got into higher education and writing and so on. And like you, I feel like I'm helping people, and I really I get a lot more out of that, even though I make a lot less money in this role. I really enjoy it, and I know my son was put in my life for me to learn those lessons, and that's powerful for me. So I get that. I really totally get that. So, but yeah, the idea of more healthier kids, it's just like that's
Yeah,
amazing. That's
100%. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that, because that's a powerful story for others as well. And I didn't know that about you. I hadn't heard that in the
yeah, it's
podcast.
again, it's part of, I mean, it's like I yeah, I wrote an autobiography that was released about a year ago where I discuss a lot of really painful, traumatic things, and it really is just putting it out on paper was
Yeah,
incredibly healing. Plus, which, like I've mentioned, this podcast for people to hear stories and go, "Oh my gosh, I went through that, and I didn't even think that hypnosis would work. I've never heard about that, or whatever." Right? To kind of
yeah,
plant the idea in their minds, or children. A lot of us don't think about working with children to help them feel safe and happy. We just want to raise them, and in my experience as a parent, I want to just raise my children different than I was raised. That was my goal. Was I wanted them to be safe, and I didn't want them to worry about addiction and police coming to the house. I didn't want them, worry about people being beaten in
yeah.
them or whatever. That was my goal. But I think myself, there was probably a lot more I could have done still, but breaking that cycle was my thing. And I'm happy I did that. Now it's like I think I'm pretty happy too.
Course, of
Yeah.
course. I think all of us want to parent a little differently. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess we're similar ages. I mean, I'm 42, and my parents they only knew what they knew, and their parents only knew what they knew, and it was off you go be a kid, don't worry about it, go away, kind of that, don't cry, up you get, you'll be right. Those kind of throwaway strategies here. And I now know that I learned to shut my emotions down or not show them. It took me a really long time to learn to cry.
Yeah.
Um, And, now I've got a 3-year-old as well as a 17 and 14-year-old, but I parent her so differently because of the knowledge that I have. And I'm not the best. I still lose my shit every now and then, but I can unpack differently. I do have those skill sets, and it's not to judge other parents. They don't know what they don't know, but this world has really helped me nurture my parenting skills, who I want to be as a human and who I want to help raise. And like you said, bringing this knowledge and skill set to these children. Imagine the world of those 20-year-olds that are deeply vulnerable and connected and can express their boundaries and their values and know how to regulate or ask for help. It's the biggest thing. I've still got coaches. I always ask for help, and that is not a taught thing. That is normally a shameful thing. I'm broken. I'm not okay. I don't know what to do. I'll hide in my 4 walls. No, ask for help. And that's the other thing with the medical world, which is beautiful. We're very blessed to have. However, normally we're just told, this is your doctor, this is your psychologist. Nobody asks. So if that person isn't your teacher, isn't the right person, then please just ask for somebody else, because I remember I had a psychologist when I had postpartum depression, and he was a male psychologist, and he wrote all this stuff on a whiteboard that I don't even remember. And I didn't even think to go, I want a woman. I want a woman that's been through it. Like, please don't doctor me when you're a man. Not a thing against him. He's probably an amazing psychologist for postpartum. I didn't need that. And we're not taught that. We're not taught to ask. So any, person that's going through this, if you're struggling and you've got a counselor, psychologist, whoever, and they're not resonating and you've given them a shot, then ask for somebody else.
One thing I want to bring up though, so my youngest daughter during her teen years really went through a lot with anxiety and some self-harm and so on. And after one of these episodes, she was in the hospital, and I knew I needed to find her a counselor like that day. So I called a local clinic, and the person they had on call was this elderly white man. And I remember thinking, my teenage daughter is not going to connect with this man in his 60s. I mean, how does he understand girl teenage angst? How does he understand that? And I know the training, whatever, but I was just, that stereotype was in my head that this was not going to work. Well, not only did it work, it was the best connection she could have possibly had at that time in her life. And he helped her in ways, just unimaginable ways. And I remember when I heard he was going to retire, I thought, oh no, what am I going to do? But he sent my daughter to somebody that he knew would take good care of her, and I'm forever thankful. But again, if I would have been looking myself, I'd have wanted to find a young woman. I'd have thought my teenage daughter needs a young woman, and in reality,
it can definitely go both ways. Like humans can surprise you, but I just mean, like, if you give everybody a chance, but absolutely. If you're not happy, like, continue to ask.
That's what I'm saying. It's been like, if that had been a good fit, I would definitely have kept on going. And I assumed from day one it was not going to be a good fit. I just knew I needed to get to talk to somebody now. So, but it was one of those surprise things for me. But I like the idea of, not necessarily interviewing, but meeting with the person to see if you have that connection, especially if it's someone who's going to be really working with you through some things. So like if it's your counselor or someone who's really helping you find how to get past things or how to, recognize things and so on, you have to have a trust there that is just pretty strong. And I think that's part of the whole, how do people pick you is, do I trust you? Do I feel safe with you? Do I feel like you're going to take care of me? You're not going to see this vulnerable side of me and capitalize on it or something like that. We trust.
Yeah, or just have the experience to hold you. I remember when I was very, like, in my 20s, and I first went to a psychologist, and we have programs here in Australia where you get it free through your work. So I was working in the government, and I literally told this, I guess, a very young woman, all my stuff. She was fresh out of university. And I told her all the things I was going through in my relationship, my addiction. And I watched her, like, pull her body, like, further and further back in the chair. And her mouth just got a little bit more and more open because I'm so open and vulnerable. And it wasn't that she she wasn't good at her job. She just didn't have life experience in that. And her body language was so shocked. Yeah. And I valued then, like, I knew then I would never do that to somebody else. Doesn't matter how shocking the information is or what comes, holding space for somebody with just love is so important. So making sure that that you find the person that really can. And she was great though. She referred me out. She knew I wasn't the right person for her.
Right,
But I
right.
do remember that instance. I was like, wow, this person can't help me. This person's not the right fit.
Yeah, I had a similar situation actually. It wasn't a real young therapist, but obviously was someone who'd never really dealt with someone who had some of the issues that I was bringing to the room. And I remember telling her something, and not only did she look completely shocked, she just, did the same with the body language, like she just sat back in her chair, like to get further away from me. And I went into this mode where I needed to protect her. So I thought, well, I can't tell her anything else because I can tell that I've shocked her or, whatever. I don't want to damage her. So I'm not going to tell her anything else because to do so, it was like I thought I'm going to pile her on this pain and then she's going to have to carry it. And that made me feel like I needed I need to find somebody who could handle this
Yeah, of
without
course.
without that sense of, not necessarily judgment, but more that shock and almost like I don't know, like I want to get away from you kind of a sense is what I got from
It
her.
was, yeah, what I was saying to my, I just believe that it was just too much,
Yeah,
somebody, when, and I've had it now, like in my years of coaching, I've had people, come to me for one thing and then tell me something totally different. And I'm like, okay, awesome. Like, okay, cool. How do we, and I will never, even in the moment, even if my brain goes, what?
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
and then I just hold space and then, and again, I believe in God and the universe, like tapping in and it flows. Like if I just come back to that, I've got this person, everything, they're in here with me,
right.
it's safe. I always hold space for those, adults or children in that moment. And because of that, yeah, just making sure that people feel totally loved and totally safe when they're expressing all of their things, because human beings have been through a lot of trauma.
Yeah, most of
And
us
it,
have. I mean, I can't imagine. I don't think I know anybody who hasn't been through something traumatic in their life.
correct.
Maybe not terrible, horrible stuff, but just something that's impacted them in some way. And that's life. That's what life. We don't live in a bubble, so I get that. But yeah. So, anything else you want to tell us about you or what you're doing or the work you do before we end?
Um, I'm just really grateful to be able to spread this message. I just have a really big goal for the world. There are some beautiful, leaders and educators and people in all their fields. Teachers and doctors. There are some amazing ones, but I just feel like there's a gap. And like we had said before, we have gone looking for our healing in our 20s or 30s or 40s, or for our children in their later years. I really believe that if we do hold space for our children from that young age, from 3 all the way up, from 2, finding that help will change the world. Helping those kids regulate and find their confidence in their own love, their own self-love. New catchphrase, self-love. If we teach them that, then the whole world will shift. And so for me, I don't care if you work with me or not, but if you're drawn to working with children, please keep following your heart. And yeah, I hope to travel the world with this, and really make a difference.
Now, I shared with you that I'm a writer. So the first thing I'm thinking in my head as you're talking is, have you thought about writing a book? Because I can see where
Well,
you're.
we might have to tap into that, because I have, Christine, but I haven't. It's actually on my whiteboard. There's a
Oh,
couple
good,
of ideas
good.
I'd love to, but I haven't
Yeah,
found the time. But by 2024, I want to have written my first book. It's on my whiteboard.
I really, really want you to do that. I know I've talked to a lot of people who, gotten into fields where they're helping other people. And yes, you're out there and people can find you and so on. But a book, right, would be like you're reaching even
Here
further.
it is.
And another thing that I think of is like if I'm not sure this is right for me and I read your book, I'm feeling like I'm not being vulnerable if I read your book. Then I can decide, okay, I've read the book, I understand, wow, this really makes sense to me and it resonates with me, and I can, go out and seek someone like you. So
I might have to get some advice on that, because it's definitely something that I want to do.
yep, definitely. You know where to find me, but I definitely hope
I
you do
do.
it. So yes.
Oh,
All right.
beautiful.
Well, Nichole, thank you. Or Nick, sorry, Nick, thank you so much for being my guest today. I really appreciate your message and enjoyed meeting you.
I enjoyed it too. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Good Grief. To hear more about my personal story, please pick up a copy of my book, The Day I Became the Spider Killer, a memoir of trauma, tragedy, and survival, available in paperback, Kindle, and Audible via Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other online book retailers.